Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to Vanilla Minecraft, and as you can see, we're still over here at our Mega Taiga village project, which I still haven't named properly. You guys did give me a ton of really cool name suggestions though, so I'm gonna have to go through those and figure out what we're actually gonna call this place. For today though, I think we're gonna focus on trying to make our village feel a little more complete, because currently there's a lot of really major rough spots in it, and I want to try and iron some of those out today. So, one, I want to try and add another building in, maybe even two, we'll see how things go. Hopefully one that is at least a little bit more interesting than the two we've done so far, which are just kind of generic house buildings. I'd like to try and do something that has a little more character, so maybe we'll do a blacksmith or a seamstress or something along those lines. We'll see how it goes. I would also like to try out little detail builds, things like wells or outhouses, little things we can put around the village occasionally just as an extra detail. And we're not going to try and place those all over just yet, because we don't know where everything is going to be going yet, but I want to try and figure out designs for those. And I also want to try and refine some of the terrain a bit, because we have a lot of rough spots that are kind of throwing off some of the vibe. So, for example, when we went and added our pathway in, there's a lot of spots where it just kind of disappears, and it's being converted to grass again. But there's also stuff like the big stone patch over there I need to clean up and all of that. And I also want to try and figure out how our pathway is going to continue up this hillside, because I want one of our secondary paths to do that, and honestly, that's going to be a little bit tricky, because it does get very, very steep up here. So I'm going to try and figure all this stuff out, probably starting with this right here. Going to try and figure out what I want this hillside to look like, maybe continue the retaining wall kind of terraced look a little bit and see how it turns out. So I'm going to go ahead and get to that, and well, we'll see how it goes and we'll go from there. So here's what I have so far, and I think that looks okay. It does feel pretty bland at the moment, and taking a look at it from this distance, the stone is also a bit iffy. I'll have to try and fix that up. But the general idea, at least, I think feels pretty cool. The idea of having a staircase that kind of turns and goes up the hill. I may try and give it a little bit more shape and a little bit more interest, but the general style of it, the kind of really basic, just stairs held up with scaffolding style that this has, I think that's probably what we're going to do for this area. I like the idea, at least. So, essentially, we've got our main pathways, and we've got a little path coming off of those, and that runs up as far as it can, and then this hill gets too steep, so we have to switch over to a staircase. Now, it might be kind of cool if we have the stairs go up a few, and then up this way, and then up this way, or maybe, like, go back and forth, or something to give it a little more shape. But in general, I think it's okay. I may also try messing with different material types and trying other things to give it a little bit of detail, but I do actually want this particular bit of building to feel really basic. Because keep in mind, we don't want this to feel like some super advanced village, we want this to feel kind of primitive. So, I think that's going to be okay. Again, once we have details in the area, I think it'll work out just fine. But of course, that does lead up this way, and now we have easy access to the top of this hill, which I didn't really realize, even though I came up here before and placed down terracotta, because I want our pathway to continue. Even though I came up here before, I didn't really realize just how big this area is, because it goes all over the place. Like, over here we have that valley we looked at last time. This is one of the cliff sides of that. And then it goes all the way over to the other side, all the way to where the main entrance of the village comes in, and the entire pathway going from that, all the way over here. Sort of. There's also this little kind of gorge in the middle. Not entirely sure what we can do with that, but that is a cool feature. But yeah, there's our stables that we built last time, and then all the way up here is the front of the village. So this area is massive. Like, we can put a lot of stuff up here, but at the same time, we need to keep in mind that it's kind of hard to get things up here. I mean, not for us, obviously, but for the village people. The inhabitants, not the group. So maybe we'll build like a small crane somewhere that's pulling like building resources up from the below, and then we can have like a half-built building, or something like that. Not entirely sure what we'll put up here, because we do need to keep in mind we can't get like horses pulling carts up here, so we don't want to put, say, the blacksmith up here, but builds that don't require a lot of resources and don't require a lot of really heavy building materials and stuff, that would be perfect to go up here. And we've got tons of space to work with. And of course, we have a lot of landscaping left to do as well, because I want to put cliff faces on a lot of the sides of it. But that is a project for another time. For right now, I think I'm going to continue this process of kind of refining some of the areas we have, getting access to different parts of the builds, and cleaning things up a little bit, because there are a lot of rough areas that are kind of throwing me off a little bit. So we've got our path going out this way. I would like to clean up the kind of that stone patch that's next to it. There's like little water pools and stuff. I want to raise this ground up so that our path isn't floating above it. Where did that dirt block come from? Do Endermen pick up coarse dirt blocks, and did one pick one up and then put it back down on my pathway? Huh. Okay, fair enough. So I want to raise this ground up so our pathway isn't like floating, because that's kind of weird. Or not floating, but a block up. It looks a little strange. So I want to try and fix that, and we'll probably also fix the area around the stable we built last time, because I just kind of shoved it into the terrain, and it looks kind of bad. So I'm going to go ahead and try and fix this up, and, well, I'll get back to you guys once that's all good to go, and then we'll probably work on a new building. Alright, nighttime is finally ending. This place is still a special kind of hell at night. I do not know what's up with that, but even earlier today there was 3 other people online, and I still was swarmed over here. It's absolutely insane. Let's, well, these zombies will burn up. Let's just take out that witch and go down there. What? Okay. So, I finished cleaning up all of the stuff that I wanted. Oh, I looked at an Enderman. This is the worst. Okay, let's do it. Come here, buddy. Ooh. Ow. Come on. Stupid flame sword. You have to be almost dead, right? There we go. Okay, come on. Let's get this over with. Okay, we good? There's more skeletons over there. There's probably a creeper somewhere, just because there always is. But anyway, I've gone ahead and cleaned up the area like I said I was going to. I also added these 2 kind of split pathways leading into the stables that we built last time. I think that feels a little more interesting than just having the road kind of straight into the stables, just kind of having a hard corner. I think this feels kind of cool. I did originally... Where on earth did you come from? I did originally have a much smaller stone here. I wanted something that kind of split the road up a bit, and the first stone I put in felt kind of puny, so I bulked that up a bit. I think this feels kind of cool. And obviously we're not entirely done with this area. Get rid of that garbage. I still want to add more details around here. Like, I threw in this little cart type thing. Is there seriously another zombie? Hello? Okay then. He must be underground somewhere. But I threw in this little cart thing, which doesn't look amazing. I think it looks okay, but I should probably spend some time designing, like, horse-drawn carts of some kind. I'd like to put a couple of those over here. I think we still need a place to put saddles and leads. That would make sense, so maybe we'll put a little structure of some kind. Little details like that, but that wasn't really the point of the terrain cleanup. This was just kind of a byproduct of what I happened to be doing. The main reason I was actually cleaning up all of our terrain was that I needed a bit of space for the build we're going to do. And I think that build is going to be our blacksmith. Now, the build itself isn't actually going to be huge, or the building itself rather, because we're not really going to be making a stereotypical big medieval blacksmith, right? As cool as that would be, it doesn't really fit the style of the village. So instead, what I think we're going to do is build a little house and then have all of the blacksmith stuff outside of it. The issue is that the way that I want to do that is actually still relatively large. More specifically, it's very long. So, like, we have this area here, which is where I originally wanted to put it. I don't think that this is long enough. I mean, I think it is technically long enough, but I think that the building would have to go all the way back up against that wall, more or less, and it would reach all the way out to here, all of the details and stuff that I want to do. It's just kind of bulky. So, I don't think that this is going to work. I'd like something a little more contained in this area. We can put it up here, though, because up here we have more space to work with. So, like, right around here, for example, we could go out long ways this way. I would need to raise the terrain up a little bit to make that work, but I'm sure it would be fine. The other option is to put it over here, where we'll have a secondary path leading over, and then we could have the blacksmith here. And that would actually be kind of cool, and I'm kind of leaning towards going that route, but this is also kind of a hilly terrain, and it would be a little bit of a mess to even it all out. So I'm going to have to consider all of these options and try and figure out what's best for that. But, well, I'm going to go and take care of that on my own time. So once I figure out what I'm going to do, then I'll get to work on the blacksmith, and then I'll bring you guys back in, and we'll take a look at how it looks and see if we can't improve it or anything like that. So I've made our blacksmith house and subsequent detailing, and I think it's okay, though I do feel like I could have made the house a bit bigger. It actually feels bigger on the inside than it actually looks from out here. From out here it looks tiny, but it's not terrible. The thing is, blacksmiths could actually have a bigger house than this, because in a medieval village, sort of like the one we're making, the blacksmith is usually a really affluent position because it's so important to have. And this guy is also part of a family of 3 in my little kind of narrative that I've got going on. So realistically, there should probably be a little bit more to this house. It should be a bit larger. So I may come back in and replace this, but for the time being, I think it's okay. And of course, we've got all of the blacksmithy detailing going on the outside as well. Just kind of generic medieval blacksmith stuff. You've got your piles of ore, which is probably not very realistic. Your water to dip the kind of molten tools into to cool them, the anvil, a piece of armor that he was working on, some little details like a wheelbarrow or various chests and containers and stuff like that. You know, pretty generic stuff. It's all under kind of a thatch-roofed canopy, which I like the idea of. Again, I do really wish we had a proper thatch block that would look a lot nicer than these hay bales do. But I think it at least conveys the idea. And of course we have the forge with a rusty iron gate on it, so I think that looks pretty cool. And, well, that's the outside of our blacksmith area. Now, the interior of the house is honestly a little bit lacking yet. There's certain aspects of it that just aren't very detailed, as you can see. What is that? Oh, that's the bottom of a banner, isn't it? I did not realize that was going to clip through like that. I'll have to fix that. But other than that, the place in here just, it feels a little barren to me. Obviously, right here is kind of a problem because I didn't want to put any furniture in front of the furnace fireplace thing, which I just remembered I also haven't made an exhaust pipe on the outside for, so I'll have to take care of that. But I don't know, maybe I should just put like some carpet down and maybe something on the table. That would probably help, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to detail the interiors of these things because we can't use certain things either. For example, bookshelves. That's something that in most houses I'm not going to be able to use at all. And here I thought I could get away with it because the blacksmith is kind of, like I said, an affluent enough position to be able to have some books in order to kind of retain his knowledge of crafting and stuff. I feel like most people wouldn't be able to do that because books would be kind of a rare commodity in a village like this one. But, you know, little detail stuff like that, hopefully we can figure out a bunch of stuff that'll work with most builds because it's kind of hard to detail them. And then here's like a little workshop area. I figure the blacksmith's wife could maybe make chainmail. I feel like that makes sense. I really wish I could put a item frame down on top of this and put a chainmail armor piece in it, but I'll have to wait until 1.13 for that. So that's that, and this house has an upstairs, even if it doesn't really look like it from outside. Really quite cramped, but it's enough space for two teeny tiny little bedrooms. Here's where the blacksmith and his wife would sleep, even though one of them's going to bonk their head whenever they wake up in the morning. Probably the blacksmith, I assume. And, of course, the kid's bedroom as well. Maybe the aspiring junior blacksmith. Who knows? But that is our blacksmith building, at least for the time being. Like I said before, I may want to replace the house and make it a little bit bigger. I feel like that would probably make a little more sense and probably make it feel a little more unique. But for the time being, I think this'll do. Now, I did also throw together a couple other little builds just to see what they would look like, because there's certain details we're going to need to put across our village. For example, outhouses. So, obviously our buildings don't have bathrooms in them, as medieval houses really wouldn't. So we're going to need to have outhouses, and I was thinking about it for a while, and honestly, I think this is probably the best design you're going to get as far as a relatively accurate outhouse goes. Because it's the right proportions, it's roughly the right size, even if it does feel super tiny. It could be a little taller, but I can't do a whole lot about that, honestly. I mean, it's obviously not very private either, but I think it's okay. I think it conveys the idea well enough. The issue is that if we tried to go any bigger than this, the only option is to go up to full blocks, and then it ends up being like this, which is fine, but at this point, I'm not sure that it really feels like an outhouse so much as some small structure, right? It feels a little too bulky to be an outhouse. So I think for that, we're probably going to go with this style, even though it looks a little derpy. I think that's probably the closest thing to an outhouse we can really convey in Minecraft, at least vanilla Minecraft. So that's that, and I also wanted to experiment with wells a little bit, and I think this turned out okay. We have like a 3x3 well here. Kind of wish we could place fences horizontally to make a beam going across, but alas, we cannot. So, I kind of like that. This one I wanted to see what a more cross-shaped pattern would look like, to try and kind of make it feel a little bit smaller, but it ends up having the same footprint as that one, so I think I prefer this one for that. I may experiment with a few other designs, I have a few in mind, but something along these lines would probably be good. So, I figured I'd show you guys those. I was just feeling a little experimental and wanted to see what things would look like. But, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to experiment with tongue-tied. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to experiment with these things anymore today because I am kind of out of time. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to call it here. I think that next episode we're going to be stepping away from the project for a little bit. We're going to be heading either to our islands or over to the fantasy biome project, depending on whichever I feel like going to at the time. We'll see how it goes, but I have ideas for both of those. So, that's probably where we'll be next time. And, well, for today, I think we're going to call it here. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you enjoy our little kind of blacksmith building. And as always, if you have any suggestions for that, or the village, or any of the details, or the stables, or, you know, you get the idea. Pretty much anything. Be sure to tell me. So, that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.